So today we're going to be taking a look at a scenario where Western and Eastern Asia go to war. Asia is the largest continent in the world and also is home to a lot of different countries, all of which are in various spots around the power scale. So if we split the continent in half vertically, which side would win? If you guys do enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it and subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated. Leave any suggestions you have in the comments below, and let's go ahead and jump straight into this scenario. Alright, so let's first define where Asia is westernmost and easternmost. Now, I'm not going to be basing this off of actual geography. Instead, I'll be doing my own way of this just to make it a more entertaining scenario for you guys. I will be saying that Turkey is the westernmost Asian country and that Siberia is the easternmost part. So we have our two furthest points. Now we can go ahead and draw in these lines. So here we have Asia within the two lines, and we can go ahead and split this in half. Right about there looks just about right. And now we have to figure out how to exactly divide up these countries because some of them overlap this line. Let's start off by making team 1, which will be the Western team. This will comprise of all of the Middle East, going into the Caucasus countries, and will include Central Asian countries and all of the stand countries. So there we have our Western team. These are the countries that are fully cemented in that team and will have no chance of course, being considered for the Eastern side because they do not cross this line. Now we can go ahead and color in these Eastern countries. Now we are left with 3 countries, and these 3 countries just so happen to be the strongest countries in Asia. That is, of course, Russia, China, and India. Also, I know there's a debate of whether the Caucasus countries are a part of Asia or Europe. For this video, we'll be considering them a part of Asia. And of course, you can disagree with that if you want, but it doesn't change the fact that I have them colored in here. Also, I'm an adult now. I'm 18. I know in the last video, which was the civilization video, I said I'm going to be 18, but now I'm officially 18 in this video. I'm an adult recording these videos, and it feels weird, but it doesn't feel too different. So yeah, adulthood? Question mark. So what do I do with these 3 countries that remain? Because obviously there's no correct way to divide them up. They are, in both sides of Asia. I think the most logical way to approach this would be to split them. So let's do that. Because if we go by majority, then, we're going to have China and India on the same team. That's not really fair. And then, of course, Russia would be a majority Western team, which could make for an interesting scenario. But then we would have the fact that these colors would kind of overlap like this. So the map would end up looking something like this. And with Russia, kind of hanging out over that, I don't really like how that looks. So yeah, let's just split it. All right, that looks extremely weird on the map, but I might change it for the thumbnail. I'm not going to change it for the video. And yes, I'm fully aware that not all of Russia is in Asia. I know that there is the boundary line, which is like the mountain range that sits over here, whatever it's called. I'm not good with geographical names, so yeah, there's a mountain range right here that's considered the border between Asia and Europe. So technically this part shouldn't be in the video, but once again, I am the one drawing the map here, so it's going to remain. Anyway, let's start the fighting because that's why you clicked on this video, right? Now let's start with India because this is where a majority of the war will be taking place. If we look at a map of India, the population is kind of like scattered around pretty evenly. I didn't really know this, but there's a lot of population right in here. There's a lot of population, of course, along the coasts. And there is a number of people over here. I'm not sure if it's significant compared to the other parts of India, but I know there is people here. I may or may not have thought that there might not have been a lot of people there previously. If we also look at economical growth and GDP development, the red side of India has a slight advantage over the blue side of India. Anyway, Western Indian troops go ahead and start marching into the eastern part of their country. West India will make quick work inside of East India as they focus on the coastal areas of this part of their country and move with the help of the Middle East to take on a vast majority of what was once theirs. Meanwhile, we see pretty much the direct opposite approach for the blue team. They will instead focus on the weaker parts of the red team and go into what is the rest of China and into Central Asia, which, as we know, is not the strongest region in the world. They make a lot of progress until eventually Russian and Pakistani troops are going to stop them from advancing any further, but they set up a pretty nice front line over here, and they are solidified in this area. So let's compare the two sides. The strongest country on the red team is Russia, obviously. The strongest country on the blue team is China. And then it gets interesting. At number 3 for the blue team, it's probably Japan, either that or Korea. So there's 2 and 3. And you have Indonesia at 4, and from there it gets complicated. For the red team, India probably at 2 or 3, Iran at 2 or 3, and then no, actually Turkey at 2 or 3, and then Iran at 3 or 4, and then Saudi Arabia. Yeah, it's complicated. There's also Israel. We can talk about Israel. They're somehow fighting alongside the Middle East. Weird things are happening. Now, in terms of strategy, I mean, like, the areas that you want to capture are so far away. You want to get to Beijing, obviously, and you want to get to Seoul and Tokyo and some areas in Southeast Asia. Whereas for the blue team, you know, you want to get to Tehran, you want to get to Baghdad, you want to get to Delhi, you want to get to Ankara, and that's probably it. So these are the major cities that you want to wipe out in this war. And as you can see, the red team's major cities are quite far away. And as for the blue team, theirs are a little bit closer. That is the cities that they want to capture. I swear I'm not colorblind. Moscow is obviously very far away, so good luck getting there. But there is opportunity, you know. There is a really weak block right here you can push through. Same for the red team. There's a weaker block down here you can push through. So it's really about, you know, the logistics and how you approach this war. China made a maybe good move by pushing into Central Asia and expanding their front. This allows them to, you know, solidify this area and keep it under their control, as the Russians and other members will try to push back against it. Meanwhile, you can have some other countries working down in India to push back the Indians in their own country. How well this goes, I'm not too sure, because if China isn't fighting there, then it probably doesn't go too well. And maybe the Russians, you know, go after themselves. I highly doubt it, because this territory, while valuable in resources, is not too valuable in terms of war score, and you know, you don't like need it to win this war. But maybe they just want it back because it's their own territory. Like, that's kind of what India is doing. So the Russians push into their own territory as well as parts of Mongolia. They attempt to fight back against this front down here, and it doesn't go too well, but they are able to link up with this lake down here, whatever it's called. So I have this big history book that my mom got me a couple of years ago for either Christmas or my birthday. And I read a little bit of it, but I never got to actually finish it. And, you know, I'm really like super invested in history, more so than I am with maps and stuff like that. You know, mapping isn't like my secondary. It's not like my main, you know, passion. It's more of history and, you know, learning about history and putting history timelines together and figuring that out. That's what interests me the most. And, you know, I can do that with these videos, obviously, and I implement that together and twist it into what I'm doing right here. But I got this big history book and I haven't, you know, fully read it. But this summer, you know, I'm graduating school. I'm going to be able to read it, and I'm going to probably enjoy it a lot. So I'm looking forward to that. Maybe I'll be able to find out some useful things and implement that into these videos, which could help out with the realism problem. I don't know if it's a problem, but there's an aspect of my videos which are just like totally unrealistic, which is fine because that's not what I'm starting for. I'm starting for entertainment. Anyway, back to your regular scheduled programming. You see, like, I'm having an issue, whereas I feel like these sides are very evenly matched. Let me know in the comments which side you think is stronger, like, off the bat, like not with all the fighting that has already occurred. If we like get rid of all the fighting that's already happened and just compare the two sides of which one do you think is stronger? Honestly, it's probably the blue team, or maybe it's probably the red. See, like I don't know, because like I don't know. Please enlighten me. Fighting, yes, sorry. India, with the help of some Middle Eastern countries, is able to push back the counteroffensive that happened against it, and they are able to enter into Bangladesh. This is pretty huge because they are now getting closer to Southeast Asia. They also go ahead and take Sri Lanka. For the blue team, they're going to go ahead and try to redo their approach to this. Now, they're kind of stuck. You know, you have the plains of Central Asia, which you can rush through, but Russia is most likely holding a defensive front there. So good luck with that. But you also want to probably cut off India down here. That would be a really big strategy for them to try to do. You know, the Afghan terrain is not fun, neither is the Pakistani terrain, but also Pakistan is a top power in the world, so good luck. The blue team will go ahead and try their hand at it anyway, and it fails miserably. They lose a lot of troops, whereas the red team didn't lose too much other than some land. And also, I know that my front lines are like kind of round. Like I'm trying to fix that, but I use a very large brush size, which I didn't used to use a large brush size. I think that's just me trying to pace the videos more because they have gotten a lot longer than they used to be for whatever reason. It's probably because I yap too much. But we can now kind of see what each team's objective are, which is the blue team going down and cutting off India, maybe starving them. Hopefully not, because that's inhumane. For the red team, their strategy looks to be kind of similar, just in the opposite way. They have two fronts going right now, one that is going into Southeast Asia and one that is going into Northern Asia. Of course, with this, you have the numbers game. So obviously, this is a lot of troops right here. So we're going to be representing that with 0, which means a lot of troops. Then you have these two fronts, which would be 0 together, but they are divided up, so they are both equivalent to 1, which is, you know, 2 1s make a 0 in this case. So then we have the defenses, which would be 2s surrounding this. So the higher the number going up to 0, the stronger the units are. But that also means that you likely have 3s defending over here. So if you look at the logistics side of this, you know, this defense is likely able to stalemate this, just as these two 2s together are likely able to stalemate this 1. So What I'm saying here is that this is stalemate, just in fancy terms. How are we going to break this stalemate? Well, we are going to go ahead and develop a new strategy, said one of the sides. And that strategy is cutting off the blue team. Russia and a lot of their allies will go ahead and pack a punch right through the northern Chinese territory and into where Xinjiang is. This is going to come at a very large cost though, as the Chinese troops, remember the 2s over here, will go ahead and overwhelm the remaining units, which probably equate to a 3. And we have the new front lines looking kind of inappropriate. It's okay though, it's just a color on a map. With this, the logistics of the blue team are kind of screwed up, and it causes them to lose a little bit of organization in the north and fall back. The red team will obviously take advantage of this scrambling and push into these areas and kind of solidify their front. I need to fix this. There we go. That's better. But they did make a very good stride here, and they got a lot of land out of it and pushed back the Chinese bubble. Or I guess it would just be the blue team bubble. I know I kind of associate like the strongest country as the leader of the alliances. So, you know, earlier I said Russia and its allies, and you know, this is China going into their own territory. So it's likely China, but also its allies. But remember, this is still equivalent of a 0, and you know, the red team's defenses on these outskirts are thinning out a lot. Of course, their defense right here has not changed at all, but the blue team can't take advantage of this, and they do as they push into the northern Russian territories where there are not a lot of troops remaining. From here, they seem to just simply walk across parts of Russia, as there was little to no resistance by Russian troops. This goes on for a fairly long time until eventually they are stopped. Some of these divisions were reorganized, and the Chinese troops were able to take advantage of that time period and push back against them. So now we can take a look at the numbers again, because numbers are nice. We still have a 0 right here. We have about a 1 in this area, and then we have some 3s up here. I'd say there's about a 2 pushing over here, so this cancels out each other. Defensive wise, we probably have a bunch of 2s right here, so these cancel out. And then we have, of course, the 3s from earlier still defending this area. 4 3s equal to 0 in my world, so there we go. But now we can talk about this. The red team has secretly been building up troops to push into Southeast Asia. They have a number 0 down here, and China's defense and the blue team's defenses are thinning out. As you can see, their higher numbers are up here, which means their lower numbers have to probably be down here. 3 3s is not equal to 4 3s, so the 0 has the advantage. If you guys don't like numbers, I'm so sorry. I didn't take a math course this year in school because I didn't have to, because I finished math early, and it's really been affecting my life. I feel really stupid now. Simple addition, I just get it wrong. I don't know. It's like I need a calculator for everything. I think I might just be stupid. This is what 1 year of not doing math does to a man. But as you can see, the red team is able to take advantage of weakened defenses down here in Southeast Asia as they take on and out Myanmar and into Thailand. The blue team is terrified by this and will go ahead and send their troops down south for no apparent reason. They get very close to Baghdad, and that battle begins with a red team victory. Elsewhere, the blue team is able to make amends and push back the red team in the north. And from here, they start a very large offensive into Central Asia and Russia. Now, I'm not too sure what the strategy is in real life, because this scenario is like ungodly realistic, and the borders don't really help with it being a straight line, so it's hard to tell what exactly would happen. So yeah, excuse this video's unrealism. I know I was just talking about unrealism earlier, but yeah, excuse it here, because really, I mean, this is an interesting war. You know, you have a whole bunch of like nothing happening in this area. What? That's a new one. I've never had that happen to me before. You have this whole area of nothingness like in the center of Asia, and then you have like mountains down here, and there's mountains right here. There's a lot of mountains in here, but like where the battles are happening, there's just nothing. And then you have population. It's kind of like this. There's a lot of people living there. And then over here, there's something like this, and then this, and then that for the blue team, and then like something like this for the blue team down there. So yeah, population kind of crazy. Nowhere near where the fighting is happening. That is, except for down here. So like night and day, the front lines will shift back and forth, and there will really be no true like team that is like fully 100% winning constantly. It goes back and forth a lot, with the red team pushing back and then the blue team also pushing back. Let me know in the comments, who do you think should win this war? Because I honestly don't know. I haven't gotten that far yet. It would likely be just like an endless war. Yeah, there's also countries that would never work together. So, maybe we have countries leaving the war over the fear of their own home country just getting completely destroyed. Unlikely that happens to India or Pakistan, because obviously India is fighting itself, and Pakistan doesn't want to lose to blue India, who would likely take land from them, as well as red India. So let's do that, because that's the only realistic way to really end this war. Turkey will nope its way out of the war, citing that they do not want to fight this. There's no point in them fighting it. They're not going to gain anything if they do end up winning on the red team. So they exit the war. Same with Israel. They don't want to work with their Middle Eastern neighbors for reasons. The Caucasus Mountain countries will go ahead and leave, as well as some of the countries that are just not suited to be in this war as of now. That could be due to multiple reasons, but most likely just strength alone isn't enough to be fighting. Of course, these countries will remain in the war because the front line is right where they're at. As for the blue team countries that are leaving the war, Japan and Korea are. These are some pretty big countries that are leaving, so it's going to be a huge loss for the blue team. Mongolia, of course, is right on the front line. They will remain, but some of these Southeast Asian countries will go ahead and leave, such as Malaysia and Brunei, as well as the Philippine Islands. Vietnam will leave the war, and that will be the last country leaving the war for the blue team. All the other ones will remain for balancing purposes. So now, after the cowards have, ran away, it's a little bit different. If we compare the losses, the blue team definitely lost more with Korea and Japan than the red team lost with Turkey and Israel. So with that, the blue team will make a big effort to just sway right through the red team center area. That seems to be a common occurrence for China to try to do with, their millions of troops that they have. Common occurrence in the recent videos, throwing manpower at people. You know how, like, in history, there's different areas, like, the age of empires, the age of imperialism, the age of nationality. What are the AdizzPro ages? Like the age of sink it into the ocean, the age of manpower, the age of severe unrealism, because that was a thing for a little bit. The age of World War scenarios. That's still happening, sort of. Let me know in the comments. I'm asking a lot of you guys in the comments today. So the blue team makes a pretty big effort to push into the red team, and it looks like for a second that they might finally be the sole country winning this war. That is until they realize that the red team is also kind of doing the same thing, just in a counteroffensive kind of way. Tons of troops, perhaps millions, move up into Central Asia and just destroy everything the blue team believed in. India will finally invade India again. Like I said, the main front line is in India, of course. Russia will work to kind of saw off this little, do I call it a bulge? I'm going to call it a bulge. That was forming in this part of Kazakhstan. That goes extremely well. And China will go ahead and completely just ditch Russia as a whole. There's not much point fighting up there. There's nothing of value up there. And instead, they will reallocate these troops to a front line back into China. So, a lot of fighting in Central Asia, as you can see. But maybe at this point, they should start focusing in on defense, because the red team is just pumping troops straight into where India and Bangladesh are. This is also known as South Asia. I could just call it South Asia, but I'd rather say the country names. That's cooler. And now with a pretty obvious barrier over here to reach, the red team will go ahead and spearhead right across, not that much. They'll go ahead and spearhead right across to Vietnam, cutting off South Asia, and making some countries maybe leave, like Cambodia. They don't want any of those hands. Neither does Bhutan or Nepal, to be frank. I don't know why they're in the war in the first place. They would never fight a war like this. And a lot of these blue team countries are seeing this as defeat. Now, of course, it's not defeat. Even as China is pushing back into Central Asia with a lot of troops, they are severely outmanning the red team over here. But yeah, these countries are just going to lose motivation and leave the war. So they nope on out of this. Thailand will surrender. So will Laos and the rest of Myanmar. At this point, the red team can go ahead and pull these troops out of these surrendered countries and reallocate them to fighting against China. China feels betrayed. I don't know why Taiwan is still in this war. They would have left with Japan and Korea. But now it is basically just China, whatever this part of Russia is, I guess Siberia, Mongolia, and North Korea, versus, a lot of countries. It wouldn't be too, crazy to say that maybe some countries would rejoin this in hopes of, getting economical benefits or political and diplomatic benefits. Like maybe Iraq and Syria sneak their way back in. I don't think Syria does, but maybe Turkey does. And they just, try to get the political and diplomatic benefits that come with winning this war. If that happens, you have nuclear bomb versus coughing baby. Except the coughing baby has a few million troops. But over time, I don't think there would be a clear, decisive invasion of the blue team. But I don't think China would be able to invade all of the red team countries. That includes India, of course, down south. So what's going to happen here is that over a span of a few years, China will get completely kicked out of the red team, and we have a pure winner finally occurring. The blue team's at a disadvantage, and it will finally surrender over to Western Asia. Do you agree with this outcome? Guess what? Let me know in the comments. I have been reading a lot of comments lately. It's really entertaining. I'm not saying that I haven't read comments before, but I've had time to do so. Speaking of time, I really am excited for the summer to put more time into these videos. Can't wait to be streaming a lot more often. It's going to be super fun. I haven't streamed on my streaming channel since the NFL draft happened a few weeks ago at this point. So yeah, I'm just ready to graduate and get this summer rolling. It's going to be probably, hopefully, the best summer that I've ever had. I'm going to be free. Sort of. Of course, I can't commit any felonies, but, they don't have to find out, right? If we're looking at a peace treaty, honestly, I'm not too sure what exactly would transpire. I'm not gonna like completely draw in and, you know, color in these borders. So this part of China, which was a part of the Western team, will likely get like half of China. You know, this isn't really too significant. These areas aren't too powerful and meaningful, so you know, there's not a lot of value. So yeah, they take a lot of land, but it doesn't mean too much. India, of course, will take itself back. I think that's pretty, you know, self-explanatory. Russia will also take itself back, and that's really all it's going to be for peace treaty wise. It doesn't make sense for much else to happen. It's just a lot of reunification and stealing of land. Maybe there's some small changes, you know, like maybe this part of China gives up some land to their neighbors as a showing of, you know, being nice. So yeah, just let me know what you think, but this will be the final peace treaty of the video. Funny enough, barely anything has changed. But yeah, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you're new. All the support is greatly appreciated, and I will catch you guys in the next video. And of course, thank you to all the super fans. This includes Kylie Speaks Plays, German Edits, A Random Guy, Patrick Clauser, Life Lamau, JB Countryball 12, Friaza, Hammertoad 45, CTG Canada Flag, Poland Country Ball, Nevada Garbage Trucks, Yakko, DW Cool Dude, and Serminator. Thank you guys.